as somebody who understands history, when I see ICE, I see slave patrols. Now, I never lived through the slave patrol period, but if you know the history of policing in this country, then you understand that they were born out of slave patrols. And now with the Supreme Court saying this, it's almost like you can just go grab them up. That is what they're saying.
That is Democrat Congresswoman, believe it or not, Jasmine Crockett, who unfortunately was born with the brain of a squirrel. Kind of sad. Yeah, slave patrols. And she didn't live in the time of slave patrols because she's a 2-year-old. Or is that just her squirrel brain? Yeah, ICE and police and slave patrols. You know, Jasmine, you're the party of the bullwhip and the plantation. I'm not sure her grasp of history. She likes to grapple with history. She doesn't know what the words mean, but never mind that. Yeah, slave patrols, the police, inciting violence against the police with her fictional misunderstanding of history. Not the brightest bulb in the constellation, that's for sure. She is not a smart one. But yesterday I had in my hand yesterday, the mailbag questions. I had the mailbag questions. And you know what happened? This shooting, a number of people, a homicide, a suicide attack, yet another Democrat Party murderous sniper suicide attack, this time at an ICE facility, Dallas, Texas, where the Democrat used a rifle with his inscriptions written on shell casings of bullets, and he opened fire on the ICE facility and shooting through the side of a van where ICE officials were bringing in illegal aliens for processing, and the Democrat murdered one of them and shot and wounded 2 more of them, and then up close and personally shot himself in the head, and he fell down with his white-ribbed wife-beater tank top on. You know, you shouldn't go out in public wearing that T-shirt. Jasmine, do you think men should go out in public wearing a white wife-beater T-shirt? I don't think so. I'm against that. But we were prepared to do our mailbag yesterday when news started breaking, and then the briefing from the police and Senator Ted Cruz at the scene of the crime yesterday. And now I have mailbag questions in my hand, and I want to start getting to a bunch of them here if I can. So let me jump in right now. And listen, I've been doing a bad job because there's too much breaking news while we're on the air. So many things going on in the world. And I come in, I mentioned it yesterday, I think, with prepared to do a 3-hour or a 4-hour radio broadcast. And then while we're on the air, usually as soon as we start, big news stories break and things start happening in real time, live and in person. So we start covering the news as it happens because, you know, that's what you do. That's what we do here. We're live on the radio. We're talking about what's going on in the world. So that's what we do. But let me go to this, to the mailbag. And I don't want to, because I've been doing a terrible job lately with all the crazy news of getting to the mailbag. But let me go to this. Vast right-wing conspiracy asks, my friend Greg Mueller believes that he is the founder of the vast right-wing conspiracy going after Hillary Clinton, the VRWC. We abbreviate it as the VRWC, the vast right-wing conspiracy. And Greg Mueller, a great conservative here in the Washington area. And vast right-wing conspiracy asks, hello, Chris. Who do you think is more dangerous to the future of America? The Democrat Party or the fake news media? You know, the mainstream media, the fake news media. I say the fake mainstream media because without the fake news, the Democrat Party would be an unending loser. Loser. And I got to say, VRWC, vast right-wing conspiracy, I understand exactly what you're saying. And it's true, if we had a legitimate news media, then the Democrat Party would not be able to get away with murder, which they're now literally, certainly trying to do. I guess Luigi Mangione became a hero of he's getting away with murder. He may end up in prison for the rest of his life, where they'll like him there, too, don't you think? I think they will. But vast right-wing conspiracy between the Democrat Party, which is more dangerous, or the so-called mainstream news media, corrupt, and they're not biased. They're completely filthy, corrupt. Bias is a quaint notion of a bygone era. But without the mainstream news media, it's true the Democrat Party would be held to account if we had a fair and balanced mainstream news media that was really religiously and scrupulously following the rules of journalism from generations gone by. Then it's true the Democrat Party would not survive, not for long, without a corrupt ABC, CBS, NBC, MS-13, NBC, the Washington Post, the New York Times, and it goes across the spectrum. And most of them are on one of the spectrums, aren't they? But, yeah, the Democrat Party couldn't survive without a corrupt media. That's a fact. That's a fact. Next question. Paul asks, you've been all around the world. Is there a country you haven't been to that you'd like to see? If so, what country and why? And it's kind of fun. I talked to my best girl about this as well because it's a fun question. And I've been to a lot of places, but I haven't been every place. I know some. I've only been to maybe 60 countries, 7 continents. Been when I was 8 or 10 years old, I discovered there were 7 continents, and I said, I have to get to all 7 continents. And I didn't get to Antarctica until a year and a half ago or something. And that was my 7th continent, as it is for most people. If you have 6 continents checked off, usually the 7th is Antarctica. And I've been to a lot of countries, but there are, Paul, a lot of great places to go that I have not been to. And I would say one of them is Norway. I've surrounded Norway and Sweden, and go down the whole list everywhere: Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, and Sweden, and Holland, and Denmark, and been to all of those places, every place surrounding Norway. But I haven't been there, and I'd like to go there and spend some time there. I like Scandinavia; it's beautiful, and the people are great, and all that stuff. But in addition to that, talking to my best girl, he said, "Well, Thailand. That's over in Asia. I haven't been to Thailand. I've been to." The Philippines and Indonesia and Vietnam and Hong Kong, at least, not all over China. I don't have a deep desire to go all over China. I like to go to the Great Wall, but that's about it. But Thailand, I'd like to go to Thailand. And my best girl said, yeah, Thailand, that'd be great. That'd be a great place. So I'd like to go there. In South America, I'd like to go to Brazil. And I've not been to, I've been to a number of countries in South America, but not Brazil. And then my best girl and I talking back and forth, spitballing. New Zealand, I've been to Australia, but not New Zealand. And I'd like to go, maybe spend a lot of time at Matt Lauer's thousands of acres ranch in New Zealand, where he flies down on the corporate jet. And he probably, locks the door when women enter the room, and then he does the Matt Lauer thing. But maybe he won't be there. But in New Zealand, I haven't been. I've been to Australia, but not New Zealand. I'd like to go to New Zealand. And my best girl said the Maldives. The Maldives. I said, okay, the Maldives. That's great. So there are a lot of places. I'd like to go almost every place, really, truth be told. Name a place, and chances are pretty good I'd like to go there. Burkina Faso, since we were talking about it yesterday, because I haven't been to Ouagadougou, and I'd like to go to Ouagadougou. Who wouldn't like to go to Ouagadougou? You can buy things there, probably pretty reasonable price. I'm thinking. Yeah, so Burkina Faso. Now, Riss asks, how will the assassination of Charlie Kirk affect the midterm elections? Is it too far out to have an effect, or will it propel Republicans to hold on to the House of Representatives in Congress in 2026? And that is it's a great question. And of course, one thing's for sure, the future remains to be seen. But I'd say that the Democrat Party is losing. There are studies out there that Gen Z men are fleeing the Democrat Party and even leaving the independent sector and becoming conservatives and becoming Republicans. And that is nightmarish to Democrats. They might have to start shooting people or something like that. But I think it will have an effect. And let me say that the number of Turning Point USA chapters that are springing up now as a result of the assassination of Charlie Kirk, that is gigantic. It's huge. And what do we have? The numbers. Let's go to Oklahoma, because Oklahoma, the head of the school system in Oklahoma, says that all high schools in the entire state will have a Turning Point USA chapter after the assassination. And while they have hundreds and hundreds of Turning Point USA chapters across the United States. It turns out that since the assassination, there have been requests to start thousands and thousands of chapters across the country, and that's kind of huge because, the Democrats, they lie to young people, and they lie to them in school, and they lie to them on college campuses, and they lie to them on late-night TV, and they lie to them on the Internet, and they get them to sign up for cult-like gatherings like Occupy Wall Street and all of that mentally ill stuff. And now there are thousands and thousands of Turning Point USA chapters springing up around the country because of the assassination. And I honestly think, I've been talking about this long before the assassination of Charlie Kirk, that the Democrat Party should be in its death throes, that it should be going the way of the Whig Party and the Bull Moose Party, because they don't deserve to exist anymore as a national political party in presidential elections and controlling the Senate and the House. They're a dangerous, violent bunch of un-American, anti-constitutional, anti-rule of law rabble who are going around rioting and looting and plundering and firebombing and shooting and assassinating. So we got that. We got that covered. So, I guess the question is too far out to say it'll have an effect. I think it will have I think it will have a positive effect for conservatives, and I think it will have a negative effect, a negative impact for Democrats running for office, because they continue to say these crazy, incendiary, violent things. It's not just provocative. It's much more than provocation. So we got that. And Mark asks, Charlie Sheen called the Kirk murder our generation's JFK moment. Charlie Sheen, I've always found him to be hilarious. He's right. And he's Irish and Basque, like I am, too. And Mark says, Charlie Sheen calls the Charlie Kirk assassination our generation's JFK moment, John F. Kennedy assassination by the communist Lee Harvey Oswald. Am I wrong to call it our MLK moment instead, our Martin Luther King moment? He was assassinated by a Democrat Party presidential campaign volunteer, and the Democrat Party gets away with that, too, because they corruptly and falsely report American history as well. No, I don't think you're wrong to describe it that way. I think you could describe it either way, both ways. And for a lot of people, they're going to view it as a civil rights leader, a Christian voice who was gunned down, who was shot down, and Martin Luther King, a Christian voice, John F. Kennedy, not. And maybe the parallel is better with Martin Luther King than it is with John F. Kennedy. So, no, I don't think you're wrong. And I think it's going to have different impacts on different people. And that's fine. That's okay. I think that's natural. Ant Chin says, how long is it going to take to end the left's grip on society? I love this question very much. This is great. And Ant Chin, I've got to say, this is the eternal battle between good and evil. This is the eternal battle between the darkness and the light. This is the battle foreseen in Scripture, in the Bible, and it is ongoing. And the left is fighting for the cause of evil. They are the Soviet Union, alive and well inside the United States. They are Communist China, the two most murderous regimes in the history of humankind. And the Democrat Party in the United States of America now is, and I don't even like this kind of language, but they are evil, and true blue Americans who fight for freedom are good. And I've got to say that this is the battle between good and evil, between the darkness and the light. And therefore, Enchin, how long is it going to take? The answer is forever. It's an eternal battle. Did you know, and I have more coming up as well, did you know that the third generation Eden Pure Thunderstorm air purifier has finally arrived? And it builds on the incredible success of the previous two generations, which had already earned thousands of 5-star reviews on Al Gore's amazing internet. The new Thunderstorm uses two technologies that studies have demonstrated help to kill up to 99.9% of bacteria and viruses floating in the air that you breathe in your home, in your office. It also removes dust and pet dander and smoke and all kinds of nastiness from the air that you breathe, and it gets rid of any odor Lickety-split, just like that. Also, you don't have to buy filters over and over again like a lot of air filters. The thunderstorm will help get rid of any stinky smell guaranteed. Trash cans, kitty litter boxes, liberal protesters, musty basements, no match for the Eden Pure Thunderstorm. And right now, because you hang out with me, you can save $200 American on an Eden Pure Thunderstorm 3-pack for whole home protection. You can put one in your basement, your bedroom, your teenager's room, any place you like to breathe clean, fresh air. All you have to do is go to EdenPureDeals.com and use the discount code CHRIS3, C-H-R-I-S, and the number 3 to save $200 on 3 thunderstorms. That's EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is CHRIS3. Yes, sir. Yeah, and yes, and I have more mailbag queries in front of me as well. Queries are very much like questions, but it's more fun to say queries.
Okay, so...
Some are saying that you're bipolar.
Wow, what does that mean? I'm bi-winning. I win here and I win there. Now what?
All right, let us go to the telephones, Michael. Let's go to Jeff, calling from the great city of Chicago, Illinois, listening on the great WLS. Jeffrey, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hi, Chris.
Hey.
The fellow that called a little while ago about if Trump was a fascist, he'd be taking our guns away. It was a great point, but taking that one step farther, if Trump was Hitler and a Nazi and his whole party were Nazis and fascists and authoritarians, these liberal left-wing Democrats would be soap or fertilizer by now.
Soap or fertilizer? I like that. That's very thoughtful. And yeah, that's
It-
rooted in history.
It's true. Think about
sure.
it.
Oh, Jasmine Crockett would have no idea what you're talking about.
No. And Ilhan Omar, she wouldn't be deported to Somalia. She'd be deported to the soap factory, and they all would. So it happens like that in every regime like that. So they should consider themselves very lucky.
And they're always left-wing regimes in the 20th century, all left-wing regimes, murderous regimes, from the Soviets to the Maoists in China to Pol Pot and on and on. And lest we forget that we're told that the terrible right-wingers, the Nazis, the Hitlerites, their party was called the National Socialist German Workers' Party. So they were the Socialist Workers' Party of Germany. I think I see a pattern emerging here. What do you think, Jeff?
A little. I think you're absolutely right. Hey, I like your show. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks, Jeff. See, normal people. These are normal people. And this is the most democratic form of media anywhere. Now, we're talking about the Turning Point USA chapter is growing and growing and growing, the number of chapters in the United States. This is the Turning Point. Turning Point USA says, campus chapter requests surge over 120,000 after Charlie Kirk's assassination by a vicious Democrat. Turning Point currently operates 900 college chapters across the country. Now requests are in for 120,000 chapters. We don't have nearly 120,000 universities, and there are places, as I mentioned, like Oklahoma, where they said we're going to make sure there's a Turning Point USA chapter in every high school in the state. That is a turning point, an epic turning point. All right, now I have more because we're so far behind on the mailbag questions. But I want to see if I can get to a couple of them quickly. Who is it? Sirokeva asks, Chris, do you have a security plan, security team, or do you just carry a Glock now in D.C. now that they have concealed carry? And I don't want to give away too much because, my SEAL Team 42, which surrounds me at all times, and they parachute in as soon as I wrap up the radio show. And I'm exfiltrated out of the radio station through the roof and the helicopter, and then reinserted on the rooftop of my building in Washington, D.C. Now, here's the thing, Sirokova, is even the people that hate me love me. It's kind of a bizarre thing, but they hate me. And they say things because, out of anger because the Democrat Party fuels all of that by firebombing everything and shooting people and things like that and calling everybody the nastiest, most vicious names you can call people. And they do it the highest levels of government, of course. But you have a security team, a security plan. I do own more than one Glock. I'll say that. I own additional firearms as well, all legally, of course, and registered in Washington, D.C. And I do have multiple concealed carry permits, as does my best girl. But I don't have a security team. That would be fair enough to say. And I have a security plan. Well, to call it a plan might be an overstatement, but I try to keep my eyes peeled, and I try to be ready. I try to be ready because the Democrats have gotten pretty weird. But truthfully, I run into people and I meet people all the time and I talk to people all the time and if you don't agree with me, that's fine. I'm like Charlie Kirk. I'll talk to you and invite you to tell me what we might disagree about, and then we'll talk about it because I'm an eminently reasonable person, and to know me is to love me, not just like. Even the people that hate me like me, but I'm a very likable person, and I'm not afraid. I'll say that much. Bemo asks, did you ever meet Charlie Kirk? Let me answer that part first. I met him a couple of times, but only very briefly and just enough to shake his, hey, this is Charlie Kirk, Turning Point. How do you know? Oh, Chris Planton. Chris does a radio show. And it's like, and I got to tell you, I don't even know if it was at CPAC or at a Republican convention, a presidential convention. And I never spent any time with him to sit down and talk and all. There was really kind of a room full of people and, this is and meet this person. So just very brief meetings. I don't have any photos or anything like that, which I would share if I did have. And what do you think his impact will be on America is the broader question. What's next for Turning Point USA? Well, again, I think I started talking about Turning Point USA with the 120,000 requests for new chapters. I think Turning Point USA is bigger now, and everybody knows this, everybody's heard this, I think, bigger now and more influential now going forward than they ever were in the past. And that, we've got 1,000 new Charlie Kirks emerging from the population. And I genuinely think that's true. He's not Ronald Reagan. He wasn't president of the United States for 8 years. And he didn't win the Cold War like Ronald Reagan and all that good stuff, but which the Democrats still yell about and throw Molotovs about because they're on the side of the Soviet Union. Even when the Soviet Union isn't on the side of the Soviet Union, half the Democrat Party is. But I think that Charlie Kirk and Turning Point will have a lasting impact on the United States of America, on politics. And look, he was very much on his sleeve Christian. Oh, speaking of which, I want to correct something. Because yesterday I was talking about his widow and some of the things that she had said and the Christianity and the things forgiving the assassin and all of that. And what I did not know until yesterday is that she is actually Catholic. And I did not know that until I'll admit that I felt foolish when I learned, and a great, well-informed friend and I were trading texts yesterday. And he said, hey, stupid. He didn't actually say, hey, stupid, but he might as well have. He said, you may not know this, but, Erica Kirk was baptized a Catholic, baptized Catholic. I was baptized Catholic. Isn't that great? And more. She went to Catholic school. She honestly, and I should have known all this, but I didn't, and I feel bad about that. But now I know, and I'm not sure if she. I guess she's practicing Catholic Sunday Mass and all of that good stuff. But I'm not 100% sure about that. And Tim filled me in, and I'm grateful because I always like to learn things that I didn't know already. Erica Kirk, baptized a Catholic, attended Notre Dame Preparatory High School in Scottsdale, Arizona. then attended and actually played basketball at the Jesuit College, Regis University in Denver, Colorado, for a couple of years anyway. And Charlie Kirk actually said that occasionally he would attend Mass at Catholic churches as well, along with her, presumably. But that's something that I said yesterday, and I felt like when my friend Tim pointed this out, I said, oh, boy, I slapped myself in the forehead with the heel of my hand. I said, oh, I can't believe what a dope. But I do believe that his impact, and certainly the impact of Turning Point USA, will be amplified and magnified, and it will grow in the aftermath of the assassination. But thank you for that, Bamo. That was Bamo, right? Yeah, that was Bamo. And John in Macon, Georgia says, do you think the Kirk assassination will be a turning point in any way for the country? I do believe that it will be for millions and millions of individuals. And therefore, again, back to Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan opened my eyes and opened the eyes of millions and millions of Americans at around the same time that my eyes were opened by Ronald Reagan. And I do think this is one of those moments, a cultural moment, where there will be a shift that will be discernible, noticeable, definable. I do believe that. Yes, sir. And then, hi, Chris. This is from Operation Crossfire Hurricane. It could be the FBI sending in a question for the mailbag. Hi, Chris. You're a movie buff. I see similarity between Charlie Kirk's killer and Al Pacino's character in the film Dog Day Afternoon. Do you? Now, this is Dog Day Afternoon was in the 1970s, and it's true, Al Pacino. And who was it? It was Fredo, wasn't it? The other guy. I haven't seen it. The movie annoyed me when I saw it decades ago, and I never went back to it. But, the movie, if I remember correctly, Dog Day Afternoon, and this is what Operation Crossfire Hurricane is talking about. Al Pacino committed a heist, an armed robbery, I think, of a bank, and he needed the money because his boyfriend, who was it, John Casales, wanted a sex change operation way back around the time of whoever that was that claimed he had a sex change operation. And Dog Day Afternoon, he said, if you recall, both committed their acts for their gay lovers who were going under transition. The movie was 50 years ago. And yeah, that's exactly right, Dog Day Afternoon. Who was? Oh, was it? Chris Sarandon, the brother of Susan Saran-Wrap. That's right. Huh. Gone and forgotten. Chris Sarandon. Isn't that great? So that's great. Yeah, I mean, certainly Operation Crossfire Hurricane, there is that connectivity because the theme is kind of the same. I should mention also that here in Washington, D.C., there's a bit of upheaval because the Israeli prime minister, who the Democrats are a danger to, Benjamin Netanyahu, is due in town tomorrow and going to be visiting the White House. So they have already erected, if I may use that term here, the riot fences around the White House, the no-climb candidates. It's to keep the Democrats on the outside fences. The riot fences have been stood up around the White House because the Israeli prime minister is going to be visiting President Trump at the White House tomorrow. And the Secret Service knows that the Democrat Party is a violent mob of criminals who are anti-Semites, while they call everybody Nazis and fascists. They're targeting the Jewish leader, the only Jewish leader, and the Democrat Party is a threat to his security, to his life, and so the no-climb fences have gone up around the White House because of the Democrat Party, which is a violent organization, and mob violence is normal for them. They've normalized that. And now they've normalized writing messages on your bullets when you're going to go out to shoot people, too. The Democrat Party. And now we've got last and final question and query from the mailbag from Mike. And then it's put parenthetically here by Kevin Tober. Maybe Mike the Lib. Might be Mike the Lib. It's a lib question for the mailbag. And it says, Chris Plant, misspelling my name, Plant. That's always good to, when you're making your first impression, misspell the person's name and it's the second word. But that's okay. It's probably Mike the Lib. Chris Plant embarrasses himself by uncritically swallowing RFK Jr.'s and Trump's quack nonsense regarding autism. I think you just misspelled a word here. I said, I'm going to have to find out whether your mother took Tylenol when she was pregnant with you. The reason misspelling diagnoses, of autism have exploded is it's wildly overdiagnosed. See, the reason that diagnoses, is what he meant to say, of autism have exploded, meaning the numbers, not firebombing with Molotovs like Democrats do, is that it is wildly overdiagnosed. The introduction of the autism spectrum now means that children who used to be seen as introverted and having learning problems are now diagnosed with autism. The Amish societies simply don't rush to diagnose the children. I was talking about this the other day, and the statistics about how low the numbers of autism are in the Amish community, various Amish communities. And it was Johns Hopkins University that conducted the studies, and they're generally considered to be pretty reliable as a source of medical things. They've got a hospital and everything, The Amish society simply don't rush to diagnose. Well, rush to diagnose might be key. Their children, which is why Amish children have fewer children with an autism diagnosis. Chris Plant also laughed at the claim that farm life leads to lower allergy rates, which is a known fact. I did talk about that fact because the Amish people have a lower, allergies and asthma? Is that what it was? Saying because they grew up in the environment. I think that's what it was. Allergies and asthma, lower rates, and much, much, much lower rates of autism. And I got to say, Mike, maybe the lib, these are questions that are worth looking at. And if you're not in favor of looking at these questions, then you are anti-science. You're anti-scientific. You might think that there are 120 genders. You might be okay with a Supreme Court justice who is a woman not being able to tell you what a woman is, because the Democrat Party has abandoned science, and the Democrat Party has abandoned biology. And the Democrat Party is a crazy cult, and it's violent. And we had to put up security fences around the White House today because a Jewish leader is showing up tomorrow. And the violent mob of, dare I say, fascist, Nazi, Gestapo types, the Democrat Party, are a threat to the White House, as they were when President Trump was there the first time and they rioted outside the White House for 3 days and 3 nights and forced the evacuation of the president and the first family for the first time since 1814, when the British invaded the United States, and it was the War of 1812. But so Mike the Lib doesn't send another thing in saying I'm wrong. And Chris Plant laughed about the claim that farm life leads to lower allergy rates. No, I didn't. I didn't do that at all. I was mocking the Democrats and only the Democrats, which is a known fact. I agree, it is a known fact. Yeah, you grew up in the real world like I did and my 5 brothers did and everybody we grew up with did. And it's amazing. Nobody had autism. Nobody had allergies. Nobody had any of this stuff. So there it is. And then he says, embarrassing goose marching to RFK Jr., the lifelong Democrat member of the Kennedy family, and Trump ideas by Chris Plant. Note that the mailbag question from Mike, maybe Mike the Lib, there is no question. It's just a rant, a lunatic rant where he hurls insults, and that's it. That's all you get, because that's the Democrat Party. Hey, Mike, don't go down to the White House and try to climb the fence tomorrow. All right, because I know you hate the Jews and everything. There's only one Jewish state. It's Israel. If you hate Israel, you're an anti-Semite. Is that fair to say, Mike? I think it is. If you hate Japan and think Japan shouldn't exist, you're probably anti-Japanese. All right, let's go back to the telephones, Michael. Let's go to Chris calling from Frederick, Maryland. Christopher, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
Very well, very well. What do you know? What do you say?
Well, we keep hearing this right wing, left wing, all this type of stuff, right? Fascist. and you've touched on this point before, but I had a conversation the other day that shut somebody down. He said right-wing fascist, referring to Republicans and conservatives. And I said, a wing is a part of a body. And the body, in this case, is Marxism. The communists were the lefties, and the Nazis were the right-wingers. And it's all Marxism. Hitler complained in his personal letters that the Russians were doing communism wrong, right? And he didn't like what Mussolini was doing because he said he's not using enough racism. So it's all leftism, the whole thing. So when these people call us right-wingers, they have no idea. It's just more evidence that they have no idea what they're talking about.
Well, I certainly believe that to be 100% true, and I've argued since high school, I believe, that if you look at the political spectrum, I don't see it as a rebar going from the far left to the far right. You take the far left all the way over here, you take the so-called far right all the way over here, and take that rebar and bend it into a circle, like you're the strong man at the carnival, and the far left and the far right meet at the same place, right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah, the commies did everything that Hitler did, but Hitler didn't steal every corporation, and he allowed the corporate masters to serve the party. And as long as they served the party, the Krupp family and so on, then he allowed them to continue to operate, the industrialists and the families, as long as they served the interests of the party. And I say that would put the Democrats closer to Hitler today than to Stalin in that respect, anyway.
Agreed.
On
a different topic, I don't know if you caught Muriel Bowser was asked if she was given that $1 billion she's been complaining about missing, what she would do. Would she spend it on police? And she said no.
Well, they love crime, the Democrats. My mayor, that's my mayor. The Democrat Party.